really love Futurama. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I've seen the first 10 seasons of this show more times than I can count. And while there are a few less than stellar episodes in the series, I would still rank Futurama as one of the best adult animated shows of all time. One of the big reasons Futurama has been able to stand out from the crowd is because of its ability to put out genuinely emotional episodes that flesh out its cast of characters. Now, I've already talked about The Luck of the Fryrish, one of my favorite episodes of Futurama, and that episode is an emotional roller coaster. But today, I'm going to talk about an episode that I feel is really great, but is also pretty overrated. It is the highest rated episode of Futurama on IMDb, and it's one of the first episodes that comes to mind for many Futurama fans when it comes to emotional gut punches of episodes. Of course, I'm talking about Season 5, Episode 2 of Futurama, titled Jurassic Bark. This episode focuses on Fry finding his dog from the past, fossilized in the ruins of old New York, and attempting to clone it with the help of Professor Farnsworth. Bender becomes jealous of Fry's currently dead dog, and begins acting out as a result in usual Bender fashion. This is far from a bad episode of Futurama, and I'd go as far as saying that it's actually pretty great. But after going over Luck of the Fryrish, I feel like Jurassic Bark doesn't hit as hard as it could have for one key reason. The impact of the episode's emotional ending only hits the audience and has little to no effect on the characters in the show. To fully understand what I'm saying, though, we've got to go over this whole episode. Fry is helping Bender work on some magic tricks when he discovers that the museum is showing off some relics from his life 2,000 years ago. Fry sets off with Bender to check out the exhibit, where Fry learns that the museum has dug up his old place of work, Panucci's Pizza. Fry and Bender explore the exhibit of Fry's old place of work, and then they notice something strange in one of the display cases. To Fry's horror, a fossilized dog is on display, and the episode fades into a flashback where Fry is once again tricked into delivering a pizza to someone under a fake name. It's on this delivery where Fry meets Seymour, a stray dog. Fry decides to share some of the pizza that he was tricked into delivering with Seymour, and Seymour takes a liking to Fry. Fry rides his bike back to Panucci's Pizza, and Seymour chooses to follow him. And from this point on, Fry and Seymour are best friends. The episode returns to the future, where Fry has decided to protest the museum's exhibit of his former dog in hopes of having the fossilized remains of Seymour returned to him. This leads into another flashback where we can see that Fry and Seymour's bond has grown significantly, with Seymour even trying to sing along with Fry to Walking on Sunshine. Once this flashback ends, we see Fry still protesting out in the rain. It seems all hope is lost, but two curators at the museum approach Fry and offer to give Fry the remains of Seymour if Fry can teach them something about dogs from the past. Fry does his best, the museum curators seem satisfied, and they return Seymour to Fry. Fry returns to the Planet Express office, where Bender is still practicing his magic tricks. Professor Farnsworth reveals that he can clone Seymour using his remains, and Fry is beyond excited. He decides to celebrate along with Bender at the return of his best friend, but this statement hurts Bender because he considers himself and Fry best friends, thus setting up the main conflict for this episode. Fry wants his old dog back, and Bender doesn't want to risk losing his best friend to a dead dog. Fry is focusing all of his attention on bringing back Seymour and preparing his apartment and the Planet Express office for his return. Bender is upset that Fry isn't giving him any attention, and he starts acting out in various ways. Bender clearly doesn't understand why Fry would care so much about an inferior being like a dog, and this misunderstanding is the driving force behind the many hijinks he gets himself into to win back Fry's attention. And while this conflict is playing out, the episode sprinkles in more flashbacks, where we see Seymour trying to stop Fry before he goes out on what will be his last pizza delivery before being frozen and awakening in the future. We also see Seymour going to Fry's childhood home, where Fry's parents and brother are wondering where he is. Seymour tries to convey that something is wrong and that Fry has gone missing, but he fails to get Fry's family's attention. Finally, it's time for Fry to clone Seymour, and he's gonna do it with the help of Professor Farnsworth and via the power of molten lava for some reason. All seems to be going well until Bender walks in. Bender is upset that Fry is neglecting him and his magic act, but Fry doesn't care. He just wants his dog back. Bender is outraged that Fry is putting his currently dead dog above their friendship and decides to throw the fossilized remains of Seymour into the vat of molten lava. Fry is left completely devastated by what Bender has done, but Professor Farnsworth reveals that there may still be a chance they can save Seymour if they were able to retrieve him from within the lava. Fry tries to jump in himself, but he is quickly stopped because jumping in the lava would kill him. Fry exclaims that Seymour would do the same for him, triggering another flashback where we see Seymour running around New York in search of Fry. Seymour manages to discover where Fry delivered his last pizza, and he makes his way into the cryogenics lab. Seymour has found Fry, and he's jumping and clawing at the cryotank Fry is locked within. Fry's parents come to the lab to retrieve Seymour per the request of the scientist at the lab, but Fry's parents don't realize he's in the tank, and they take Seymour away, sealing Fry's fate of waking up in the future. And speaking of the future, Fry is now standing by the vat of lava crying over Seymour. Bender decides to comfort Fry, and he apologizes for not understanding Fry's love for an inferior creature such as Seymour. To Bender, loving Fry is loving an inferior creature in the same way, and with this newfound understanding, Bender jumps into the lava to retrieve Seymour. Bender succeeds, and it seems like everything is going to work out. But when Professor Farnsworth reveals that Seymour lived to be 15 years old, Fry is suddenly hesitant. Fry realizes that Seymour lived a full life after he was frozen, and in that time he most likely moved on from Fry. So, Fry decides to simply live with the memory of Seymour and decides not to go through with the cloning. Now, we've reached the end of this episode, and up to this point, I really don't have any complaints. Jurassic Park is packed with a bunch of great jokes and a really touching story, but it's the ending of this episode that I don't love all that much. After deciding not to clone Seymour, the episode cuts to another flashback where we see Seymour sitting outside of Panucci's Pizza. Time ticks by, and Seymour remains in front of the pizzeria, loyally waiting for Fry to return. Years pass, and Seymour is still there. And then finally, Seymour closes his eyes, and the episode ends. Now, I don't hate everything about the ending of this episode. I think it's touching and emotional on the surface, and the fact that Seymour was loyal to Fry is very sweet. But the more I think about this ending, the more I wish they had handled it differently. It's definitely a sad ending, but that doesn't make it immediately emotionally fulfilling. One problem I have with this ending is the fact that Seymour knows where Fry is. Yes, he's a dog, and maybe I'm holding an animal to too high of standards, but Seymour saw Fry in the cryogenics lab, and despite being smart enough to investigate and find Fry, Seymour decides to sit outside the pizzeria for literally the rest of his life. I like how loyal Seymour is. I think that's cute, and I think that's a sweet way to end the episode. But why wouldn't he go back and try to get Fry freed again? He literally knows exactly where Fry is, and to the audience's knowledge, he never goes back. He just sits in front of the pizzeria. If I were to redo the ending of this episode, I would have had Seymour move on and have a happier ending. Maybe Seymour finds a lady dog and falls in love, starts a family, and then passes away after living a full life. Or maybe you could have Seymour return to Fry's family and live out the rest of his days with them. They clearly wanted this to be an emotional episode, and for the most part they succeeded. But the ending of Jurassic Park feels like it's sad just for the sake of being sad. On top of that, Fry is inherently wrong about his assumption of Seymour living a long and fulfilling life. Fry just sort of assumes Seymour lived a full life because of his age, and it turns out Seymour spent the rest of his years waiting for Fry. I feel like there's a better direction to go in when it comes to the ending of this episode, but I don't think the ending ruins the episode as a whole. This is still a really strong episode of Futurama with a lot of great jokes and a pretty damn good story, but I am really curious to see what you all thought of the ending of this episode in the comments section below, because I remember this ending hitting a lot harder when I watched it a few years back. For me, the best and most emotional episode of Futurama is The Luck of the Fryrish, because it manages to deliver a gut punch of an emotional ending that makes sense for the story of the episode. Jurassic Bark is still a great episode, but it fails to stick the landing as well as Luck of the Fryrish. And that's why I think Jurassic Bark is slightly overrated. Its ending is definitely sad, but it has no effect on the characters in the future. The sad ending is only realized by the audience, which to me doesn't work as well as having the impact hit both the characters in the show and the audience. Still, this episode is absolutely worth watching, and it's one of the better episodes of Futurama. But after rewatching Jurassic Bark, I don't think this is the best episode of Futurama I've seen in recent memory. That honor definitely goes to The Luck of the Fryrish, because while The Luck of the Fryrish and Jurassic Bark are very similar episodes with lots of flashbacks and gut-punching emotional moments at the end of The Luck of the Fryrish, the characters in the show are feeling the emotions that the audience is feeling. But at the end of Jurassic Bark, it's really only the audience. The characters exist in blissful ignorance of something very sad that happened in the universe, and to me that just doesn't work as well as everyone that's a part of this story, the audience and the characters both, experiencing the same emotions. To me that works much better, but like I said, I'm curious to hear what you think in the comments section below. Thank you all very much for watching this video. We're at a very special time where we're about to hit 2 big milestones for Mr. Cow at the same time, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. The first milestone is 9,000 subscribers, which we're nearing. I don't know if we'll be there by the time I upload this video. I'm about to go on a little business trip after this, so it'll kind of be up in the air for a little bit as to when we'll hit this and as to when this video will go up. But one thing I am certain of, the other milestone, is by the time this video goes up, Mr. Cow, I will have my first ever million view video, which is just crazy. I cannot believe that. It is the Inside Jobs Cancellation is a Big Deal video. I put a ton of time and effort into that, and the fact that so many people showed up for it, so many people responded to it, so many people commented about it and shared it and liked it and all this great stuff, it really does mean the world. Don't think for a second I take any of this stuff for granted, especially considering right now we're almost to the 8-year anniversary of my channel, which is crazy to think about, that I've been making YouTube videos about all sorts of stuff for 8 years. And for this to be such a successful year too just means a ton. And I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on making stuff. But I want y'all to know I am very, very grateful that you're showing up and giving me this support. So stay tuned for more. Like and subscribe to become a cow. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.